All righty, Miss Sandra. It's been great chatting with you. We had the chance to discuss off camera here a little bit about the role and a little bit as far as your professional experience. So, Sandra, I don't want to talk about your experience for you. You say it best ultimately. So, tell me a little bit about yourself, your professional experience, and we'll go from there.
Would you like me to tell you about my previous jobs?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Tell me a little bit about your professional experience, a little bit about, the roles you worked in, and then kind of what your day-to-day looked like.
Okay. The employer that I just worked for, I moved from Pennsylvania to Florida a little over 4 years ago, and I did go through a temp agency. I worked through the temp agency for about 6 months, and then they hired me on. Um, about 6 months after that, because of my performance, they hired they promoted me to supervisor.
Oh,
So, and that's based on metrics, how well you do on the phone, the grading of the calls, and just your performance and your attendance, And so I became a supervisor. So I was a supervisor there for the last 2.5 years or so. Um, I'm a very uh, uh, people person, you know what I mean? I love talking
mhm.
to the customers, and um, as far as my employees, I treat them all fairly. They all love me. They were so sad to see me go, um, which I appreciate.
Yeah,
I just love working with others. Um,
absolutely.
I do,
Yeah.
and I like to um, help people, with because like the job that I was in, it was for security systems for every possible company in this whole country. And so, they would call in with problems and I would get them fixed. Like I said, I would dispatch technicians out to fix their issues, fire systems, security systems, and things like that. I get the satisfaction of fixing what is wrong, and making things right, and that's just the type of person I am.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you were even in your backyard earlier cutting down some trees, so it really
I
shows that
I
you do
do
what
it
you need
all. I
to
do it
do.
all.
That's amazing. You spoke about the promotions that you were able to get in your previous role or roles, right? Which really shows your work ethic. I think that with a
Yes,
lack of work ethic, there's no promotion, and of course, your superiors don't see that. So
right.
that's beautiful. Now, I know when we were on the phone, you told me a little bit about your day to day, a bit more into detail. So you were dispatching. Was it
Right.
technicians as well for like an IT company? Tell me about that.
So, I mean, day to day, what I would do is, I did the scheduling for all my employees for like about 35 employees,
Mhm.
and I also did the payroll, and I also did, taking supervisor calls, and um just I did a lot. I did a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
We used to work on call. I used to do more than 40 hours a week, even though, my set hours were 40. I did a lot of overtime and my days off on weekends, nights, being on call, that type of thing.
Yeah. And you've worked in call centers, a few call
Yeah.
centers at that. You worked a lot with customer service as well.
Yes.
But ultimately, what does customer service mean to you?
What it means to me is being able to speak to a client, customer, and giving my 100% and making sure when they get off that call that they are satisfied with the interaction and the outcome.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with you as far as the customer service aspect. Now, I want to know because this is going to be a job to where there's a lot of multitasking, right? You're answering those inbound calls, entering data into the computer system and dispatching system. So, what's your method to the madness when it comes down to multitasking?
The methods of the madness. I that's a hard question. Um, I just make sure I get it done. I don't take shortcuts. You know, um, I go by policies and procedures, and I just make sure I get it done.
Yeah. And as far as organization, how are you able to organize yourself, whether, spreadsheet, notebook, and post-its? What's your best way to organize yourself throughout the day?
Um, I use spreadsheets, and I also use notepads, like on the actual computer. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so I mean, you don't want to write information down from clients on paper, you know, especially working from home, because that I had worked from home with this job.
Okay.
My last job when I was there 13 years before I moved here, it was in a call center, we had about 450 employees in the building. So, they're very strict when it came to like personal information on clients and stuff.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah,
Confidentiality is always best. You don't want to have something written
right.
in the
Yes.
post-it and the cleaner, the janitor, takes it off our desk. So that's
Yes,
definitely, I agree with you on that. And as far as systems, you've worked with other few companies, your tenure, you've worked at a few sites for 13 years, 7 years. So I can only assume you use some kind of system. What systems have you used and are familiar with?
meaning the type of systems that they use.
Yeah. So, for
Like
example, if you use perhaps like the Google system or Outlook or any other TMS or CRM system.
we used Outlook at my last two jobs.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then familiarity, as you mentioned, keep yourself organized with Excel or spreadsheets. So you have that
correct.
under your pocket there.
I do.
Amazing, amazing. I know I asked you earlier, but you do have reliable transportation, correct? Just
I
want to
do.
make sure. Beautiful.
Yeah,
And you're able to start as soon as.
as soon as possible. Yes.
That sounds amazing, Sandra. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but don't hang up on me. I want to
Okay.
speak to you for a brief minute here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.